You know the drill. You know the drill.
You know the drill.
You know the drill. I'm in a glass case of emotion.
You know the drill.
The drill. Oh, what? Oh, sorry. Sometimes I get metal and, can't stop the rock.
Yeah. Someone should do that, like metal Go-Go's cover band.
Vacation, when you want it.
See, it's got legs.
It's going to hurt my voice. My golden voice. Glass case of emotion. All right. Sigmund Bloom. Let's do this blanking thing. Sorry, Joe. Oh, I wish I could cuss. YouTube, you suck. Oh, wait. Probably shouldn't say that. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. There's revenge games, and then there's revenge games. 19-14, Carolina over the Jets. So the revenge falls short. But Bloom, before we jump into the games, it was just great to have football back today.
Yeah, it's stimulation, overstimulation. And that's why we love the fire hose. Lots of meaningful things happening, sifting through it all, especially with the cold open season. The season has a cold open, and we have to get with it. And that's why we like it. So it was fun to feel it, football flying past us today and trying to just catch what we can. We'll ruminate, marinate as we have a few more games, and then next week we'll do it all over again.
We will do it again, but we start with the Jets and the Panthers, as I said. And Zach Wilson, I mean, hey, if it's Corey Davis in the right side of the end zone, he's going to find him for a touchdown and operating under pressure better than I thought. Now, sacked 6 times. So Zach Wilson, one of his problems in college was dealing with pressure. Well, when he was under pressure, he did try to find that next level, try to find Corey Davis exclusively in the end zone, couple of touchdowns, 1 interception, 258 yards passing. Davis 5 for 97 and 2 tutties. Braxton Berrios 5 for 51 in this contest. We know there was no louder with Crowder here, so you're looking for somebody. Elijah Moore 1 for -3. Oh. Although there was that lateral where you thought, okay, maybe it's going to be a lateral and it's going to go back to Elijah Moore. That didn't happen. And Tevin Coleman, speaking of not happening, their ground game's just not happening.
Right.
And it looked bad for some time. And then in the second half, they kind of figured things out. And that was Wilson to Davis.
Yeah, it was a pretty miserable day for Zach Wilson, honestly. It was kind of a welcome to the NFL day for him. Yes. I think this whole season we're going to see him learn the limits of his abilities. One play he makes, and granted, Panthers maybe laying up a little bit after they had opened up a 2-score lead, and really the Jets weren't doing anything on offense. He extends a play, and he finds Corey Davis for a long touchdown. He makes one of those throws outside of structure that you saw him make at BYU. But on other plays, when he was playing outside of structure, he looked like Keystone Cops, like he was just getting chased around, and you're saying, go down. Just go down to the turf, man. Only bad things are going to happen. So he's learning the limits of his abilities, and of course the limits of the Jets' offensive line, who lost Mekhi Becton. But it sounds like an MCL injury. We'll follow up on this. Maybe not a season ender. It looked like it at the time. They can't afford to lose him. So what's there? It is Corey Davis, and it was a long bomb on a extended play. Not quite garbage time, kind of garbage time touchdown. The running game, there's just nothing there. We're not bothering with any Jets running back. And you saw Elijah Moore get a lot of snaps. I don't know if it matters. Denzel Mims, not so much. Braxton Berrios played ahead of him. And that's about it. And they get New England next week. So growing pains, dumps, a rough start. And Carolina isn't exactly a tough draw to open the season. So if this is how it's going to go for the Jets, at least early, again, you just want Zach Wilson to make it. It's like when you're learning how to drive, just don't wreck the car. If you just bring the car home without any dents, good.
Good. That's good, kid. Keep it up. Sam Darnold, you thought, here comes the revenge. And he won, and he threw 279 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Touchdown to Robbie Anderson, only a catch, but 57 yards and a touchdown. You'll take that if you started Anderson as your flex play. DJ Moore, 6 for 80. Christian McCaffrey's amazing, 9 for 89 as a receiver, and then 21 for 98 as a rusher. That'll do. Sam Darnold also with a rushing touchdown. Terrace Marshall 3 for 26 in this, and they never get anything from the tight ends, whether it's Ian Thomas or Dan Arnold. So Carolina wins, but it doesn't really blow anybody out of the water.
No, and against a Jets defense that you should be able to blow out of the water, right?
Yes.
This is a game where you just see Christian McCaffrey yoked up and pulling the whole offense, which is kind of how it should be. I mean, it's still a limited offense in the sense that McCaffrey is continuing, I don't want to say nickel and diming the defense to death, but just getting those yards that he makes look easy and keeping the offense on schedule. Darnold was solid, but not spectacular against his old team. McCaffrey, this was almost, let's say, a median game, maybe not a floor game since he had 9 catches, but didn't get any of the scores here. Darnold getting a quarterback draw. You also saw here Terrace Marshall getting about as many snaps as the tight ends, but still Darnold should have hit him for a touchdown. So maybe there's something there, depending. We'll get to hold on and shut him down. See, Marshall falls in between there. You did see Robbie Anderson, 1 catch, 57-yard touchdown. So you'll take that. Anderson, again, one of those preseason extensions. DJ Moore, the other player, kind of like Christian McCaffrey, that Darnold just depended on, just leaned on. And that's smart. And that's how this offense should be. See, this was easy. This was a warm-up. It was a tune-up. Jacksonville State, if you will. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, Florida State. So, yeah, they won. Next week, New Orleans. A little bit more of a test. Maybe we'll learn a little more about Sam Darnold in this Joe Brady offense next week.
Let's get to Jaguars and Texans. Break up the Texans, or, well, can you fire Urban Meyer after one game?
Right? Retroactively?
Like, seriously.
Can you just never hire him, like an annulment?
Yeah, this is just bad. Like, Trevor Lawrence, just don't ruin yourself while Urban Meyer's your coach for a year. Okay, and then he'll figure out who wants to do something else. 37-21. Texans over the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence 3 up and 3 down, 3 touchdowns, 3 INTs, 28-51, 332 yards. Passing touchdowns goes like this. DJ Chark 3 for 86 and a touch. Beautiful throw into the end zone. Marvin Jones Jr. 5 for 77 and a touch on the day. And then a touch for Chris Manhertz. Nobody started him. You might have started Visca 7 for 50 and then also a carry for 9 yards if that counts in your leagues. And well, carries count for something, I guess, but when Houston jumps out, what was this, 27-7 at halftime? Right. Yeah, they're not going to run the ball. So James Robinson, nothing, 5 for 25, 3 for 29 as a receiver. Carlos Hyde, 9 for 44 as a rusher, couple of catches for 14 yards as a receiver. It looks rough for Jacksonville, and defensively to allow Houston to basically do whatever they wanted, we'll get to in a little bit,
right? Just
tells you the type of year it's going to be for Jacksonville.
See, this would have been a credible relegation game, right? Like, if you can't win this game, you don't belong in the NFL for a year, and you have to rehabilitate yourself. It was not a game between two good teams, and one team looked like a bad team in that setting. So your worst fears about Urban Meyer, I know it's just one game. See, so we could file all this stuff by week 1, reaction, overreaction, underreaction. We're going to overreact to Urban Meyer. But the thing is, we're all expecting it. So there's a difference between overreacting and feeling like maybe something's going to be towards one of the ends of the range of outcomes as opposed in the middle, and then starting to see evidence of that and saying, well, that was my prior. I'm seeing evidence. Confirmation bias can be true. So if you think Urban Meyer is going to be a disaster, and today you say, yep, he's going to be a disaster, then that's not overreacting, and you got to tell a good story because Trevor Lawrence was, I don't know, you see the traits, but you just wonder if he's going to develop in this kind of situation. How can this team go into Houston and face this Houston team made up of all the flea market swap meet players,
right,
and look this bad? It's just a sign to me that they're not. It's the same thing we've seen for the last few years. It's the same thing we've seen in Jacksonville, honestly, going back 5 years with that short moment that they woke up and almost went to the Super Bowl. It's this team for fantasy. Okay, Chark, Visca, Jones. If this team is bad, does this sound familiar? The Jags have some fantasy value because they're so bad that they just pass against defenses playing prevent in the second half. Even against the Texans. Even against the Texans without Deshaun Watson, right? Sound familiar? Your fears about Urban Meyer being realized about James Robinson. Now, he did outsnap. By the way, snaps, PFF Nathan Janke does fantastic work getting this stuff out away.
Good dude.
Yep. Right off the press. So it's good to have this stuff to talk about on Sunday nights. He did get 46 snaps. Robinson to Hyde's 25. It's not much of a consolation. And again, if this team isn't playing winning game scripts, so we looked at last year and said, how could it be worse than last year? How is it worse than last year? Urban Meyer's the coach.
Yes.
Urban Meyer says, hold my beer. So even with Travis Etienne going down, that's frustrating. Again, Manhertz gets involved. James O'Shaughnessy gets involved. Lawrence threw 51 times. That's not good. That's not a good outcome for the Jags in any way, shape, or form. and he also wasn't doing anything as a runner. So it isn't like for fantasy. I mean, maybe in those leagues that just give you a little slap on the wrist for turnovers. Lawrence was solid today, super flex leagues and things like that. But then again, Cecil, you turn around, the Houston defense without Bradley Roby, facing one of Bradley Roby's old teams, Denver Broncos next week. So the screws are only going to get tighter. So this might have been a fun little joyride for fantasy for those wide receivers, but this is not a joyride for this team under Urban Meyer.
Treat it like an episode of Jeopardy. Who is Tim Patrick?
Right.
Why is Tim Patrick the number one waiver wire pickup? We'll get to that in just a little bit. But Bloom, you mentioned when the Jags almost went to the Super Bowl with Blake Bortles. Mr. I have an idea. Let's put our contact tracers in the corner of the room. Oh, did I say too much? Rumor. Allegedly, whatever I have to say. Anyway, little tidbits. That's not even Lassie Bark. I just told you what happened. Or what people think happened.
Right.
You got to be safe. You can't say whatever. All right, so let's talk about the Texans. Oh, my God, Texans. Okay. And I guess all the running backs can be involved.
Right.
I still don't know what happened on that first Phillip Lindsay play, the fumble, whatever it was. Lindsay's mad at himself, the world, Houston, whatever, but he gets a touchdown later on the ground. Mark Ingram got the touchdown earlier on the ground, 85 yards and a touch for Ingram, 25 yards and a touch for Lindsay. Lindsay's not a good receiver, so he didn't catch any passes. Ingram didn't catch any either. David Johnson did for a touchdown, 3 for 18 and a touch as a receiver, and then 3 for 10 as a rusher to Rod. 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. The other touchdown, of course, it was Danny Amendola. But at least Brandon Cooks got his, right? 5 for 132. Farrell Brown, 4 for 67. But it's Jacksonville, dude. So at the end of the day, we can say, oh, Houston, wow, look at this. But it's not like you should be rushing to get your Texans. This was against Jacksonville. I think this game says a lot more about them than it does about Houston going forward.
Absolutely. And in case you're wondering, again, right away, Cleveland, and maybe Cleveland's defense isn't exactly a shutdown unit, but it'll go up a caliber or 3 or 5 for the Texans. But yeah, Tyrod Taylor, see, Brandon Cooks, 50-50 ball guy, just throw it up and Brandon Cooks will go get it. That's not what I think of when I think of Brandon Cooks, but that's what he did in this game to keep the passing game going. Taylor, safe with the ball, what they're asking for. And yes, you can have this running back centric offense, and everybody scored this week. Ingram was in on 35 snaps, carried the ball on 26 of them. So you did see David Johnson getting a touchdown. You did see Lindsay getting a touchdown as things started to get away from the Jags. This was just, over the last few years, the Blake Bortles era, the end of it, through what we've seen, the brand of football that they put on the field for Jacksonville, there are times you're just embarrassed for the team, honestly. And this was one of those times. Watching the way they were performing. Farrell Brown. Hey, Farrell Brown's a great story, great athlete, worked all the way back from a pretty bad injury. So if there is a tight end to have in this offense, he's the guy. He made some nice plays in this one. Danny Amendola, Dammy, barely on the field, barely on the team, scores. I mean, that's the kind of day it was. Walking off the street, you get a touchdown. Who thought that the Texans would have a day like that this year? But again, this is just a nice dream that they're going to wake up from. They're going to start playing real teams. Jacksonville, I don't think you're going to wake up from this nightmare. Not this year.
Not this year. Arizona, Vance Joseph says, we're back, at least for that defense. And with the Titans, big time concern. See, we should have started with this show, Bloom, or this game, because then it could have been like, was Arthur Smith really the key? Was he the key?
Don't tell that to Falcons fans.
Right, exactly. The key to what? The key to the restroom at the
key to the outhouse, yeah.
At the roadside. What is it? The roadside stop, right? Can you tell?
You have to carry the hubcap with it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we got the hubcap. And then you go in there. You're like, nobody cleans this thing. No. Arthur Smith, what are you doing? But the Titans 13. What the hell's wrong with you? Arizona 38. Let's get to it. Kyler Murray, amazing. 4 touchdowns, 1 INT, 289 yards, a rushing touchdown as well. If you went up against Kyler, you probably didn't win. Nuke Hopkins, amazing. 6 for 83, 2 touchdowns. I was talking to I can't remember. I was talking to somebody. I can't remember who it was. But they're like, if Arizona figures out how to use Christian Kirk, then watch out. 5 for 72 touches. Was it Keyshawn? Might have been Keyshawn. Anyway, so yes. So yeah, they figured out with Christian Kirk 5 for 70 and 2 touchdowns. Rondale Moore 4 for 68 in this one. Chase Edmonds 4 for 43. Edmonds also 12 for 63 as a runner. James Conner 53 yards as a runner. Most of the carries, by the way, 16 here. So data points, learning points. AJ Green, he looks like 2015 AJ Green. Nah, well, he looks like 2019 AJ Green, 2 for 25. Okay, done on 6 targets, by the way. Done and done. Arizona kicking ass on the wild side.
Yeah, see, when I was projecting win totals for the NFC West, I really wanted to make every team a winning team. And I know the math, this is where the bean counters come in and say the math is really tough for every team in a division to be a winning team. But if you watch the NFC West today, we'll see what's going on while we're recording with the Rams against the Bears. But yeah, a lot of winning teams here. Kyler Murray and Cease, we talked about this recently. Michael Vick, right? I mean, just a player that you can't account for even when you do everything you can to account for him. A demoralizing player. Straight up demoralizing to face as a defense. And that's if you're a good defense. If you're a defense like the Titans, oh man, you just can't wait till the clock gets to 3 zeros. That's how this day was for the Titans defense. So we're going to remember that. We're going to pick on them. And Murray was just a maestro in this one. Some of the throws he was making. See, so you just see him, a game slowing down for him. I know we use that term a lot, but you see that with Kyler.
Well, he's also in effort mode. Sorry, Joe and YouTube or whoever I got to apologize to. I wish I could cuss, but because I think it was back-to-back plays where he's running, scrambling, like does that little extra burst to the right. And one, he threw it out of bounds. And then the next play, he threw it. And then somehow DeAndre was right there.
Right.
It was like a touchdown. Same play.
Right. You saw Hopkins, you saw Kirk make incredible throws, and Murray's giving them a chance to make those plays.
The Kirk over-the-shoulder
twisting catch.
Amazing.
Both of Kirk's, the plays that Hopkins made. Look, there's something here, Cease. There's something to unpack, like a Thursday night topic or just a general topic of when quarterbacks challenge their receivers to make extraordinary plays. These are the best in the world. They can make these plays. So you have a really scary offense now. Nuke, maybe he's not going to get the inordinate targets he got last year, but if he does plays at the level he did today, it won't matter. Kirk, who for 3 weeks was a fantasy wide receiver 1, if Murray is dealing downfield, again, some of this is probably a function of the Titans. If you're wondering, by the way, it's Seattle, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson and company against this Titans defense. It's an offense for your fantasy team when they face the Titans defense. You didn't see AJ Green do as much. I think he still got like 6 targets. Rondale Moore wasn't in as many snaps as Green and Kirk. Kirk was the number 2 receiver here. Green and then Kirk. Green with 54, Kirk with 37. Moore with only 20. He did get a red zone target. Didn't go very well. And you also saw Edmonds coming through for you in PPR leagues. So if you took Edmonds thinking he can be a flex, sometimes running back 2 in PPR leagues, it looks like that's what we're going to get from him. Connor didn't get the touchdowns here because they all came via Kyler Murray, but you still like that Connor can be the goal line back for this kind of offense. Remember what Kenyon Drake did last year. So this is all right on track. You watch the way that Kyler Murray plays, and you feel like in any one game setting, he has a chance to win against anybody. In any setting. And this is a really exciting thing for fantasy football. It's a really exciting thing for football. Not so exciting for Mike Zimmer and the Vikings who have to face him next.
I know how to spell Kyler. M-V.
Yeah. Well, get those futures bets in. Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, I got to tell you about a hot proposition today. Thank you, Melvin Gordon, by the way. 212 yards for Ryan Tannehill, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. AJ Brown gets a touchdown, 4 for 49, and a touch. And they like had a little bit of fight, and then the fight like went away. It wasn't there largely, and then they had some fight when AJ Brown gets that touchdown, and then like no more fight. It's like that's enough fight. You've had enough. Chester Rogers, the leading receiver, 4 for 62. That's not good. Julio Jones, 3 for 29 on 6 targets. They kept talking about the chemistry between he and Tannehill. What chemistry? Exactly. It's not there. Tannehill, by the way, rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry at one point in the game, I think it was third quarter, Bloom, he had like 9 yards. Now he finishes with 58 and then 3 for 19 as a receiver. So it's enough. I mean, we're getting close to, if you're in a PPR league, to 10 points, and it's definitely not what you wanted. But this just looked awful.
Yeah.
It looked awful for the Titans today.
It sure did. And you don't want to chalk it up just to Arthur Smith again, because it wasn't like the Falcons were arousing success on offense. More on that later. We have to mention Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones had one of those all-time kind of days today. Since they have been recording sacks as a stat, he's the first to ever have 3 sacks in the first quarter of the first game of the season. And that was just the kind of day it was going to be for Ryan Tannehill. Some of it was, it's never good when you decide your right tackle on the eve of the season, but some of those sacks were against Taylor Lewan. And see, this is a good reminder of, we're going to be reminded of teams that lost certain players for a good part of the year last year. Chandler Jones was a non-factor last year. Remember, they add J.J. Watt, and it was, again, the word that comes to mind is demoralizing what Chandler Jones was doing. Chandler Jones wasn't just getting in for sacks either. He was devouring Ryan Tannehill.
Today was so good, even Isaiah Simmons made plays.
Right. Isaiah Simmons tracking down an interception. And you just love Chandler Jones as a Syracuse grad. I'm just loving seeing him really see. It was as good a day as you will see an edge rusher have. And what I mean by that is influencing the game. Because there are certain positions that are worth the number one overall pick, quarterback, obviously. But edge rusher is another one. And this is why. Chandler Jones determine the outcome of this game, folks. Kyler Murray did too, okay? But as much as a defender can. So against Seattle next week, I mean, we'll see if Tannehill can bounce back. The disappointing thing here, Cease, is between Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, who did at least score a touchdown, and Derrick Henry, you were supposed to be able to put defenses in a bind. You give them choices, and whatever choice they make, you show them there is no right choice to this. There was nothing. I think that Chandler Jones just took all of the, I want to offend the YouTube overlords, out of the Titans offense, which usually takes it to the opponent. Ferkser didn't do anything. Julio Jones, you said chemistry. It's like the chemistry where it just blows up and your face is covered in soot. I mean, it was, or it's
not the kid chemistry set where you put baking soda and don't do this at home.
Right, the volcano.
Yeah, it's not even the Mentos thing.
That's
right?
it.
It's just like a little...
So, or fireworks. It was like the little snakes.
It's like a popcorn fart.
There was. Well, there was a ball in the red zone because Julio Jones, better play calling, red zone. No, he got his hands up late. He looked like a rookie. So I don't know. Chester Rogers, like you said, the number one receiver was Chester Rogers, or the most productive receiver in terms of yards. Are they missing Arthur Smith? Again, going to Seattle next week. And see, this is one where I understand overreacting. I understand selling any piece of this offense, say 60 cents on the dollar, 75 cents on the dollar right now. Like if you can swap Henry for Joe Mixon, that might end up being really good, or Henry for Nick Chubb. That might end up being really good. In a couple of weeks, you might feel really good about that, getting out. Because this just felt like this team has no wind in their sails right now. And some of this might be, Cecil will look back and say Arizona's defense has also arrived. Arizona is a legit Super Bowl contender with some muscle on both sides of the ball. But right now is the Titans that are flaccid.
Chargers and Washington football team up next, 20-16, the final score. And with the Chargers side first, Chargers getting the win, 337 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT from Justin Herbert. And he kept going at Mike Williams because there was parts of this game. Speaking of looking like a rookie,
right?
Mike Williams again, and he'd have the little bit of contact, and he's like, "What? Where's the flag?" And it's like, dude, you're dropping everything. You're not looking good. And Herbert stuck with him. Now that's a sign of a young quarterback to stick with him because an old quarter. If this was Peyton Manning, just be like, "I'm never throwing to you again. Cut this guy," and they probably would. But Mike Williams, they had some stick-to-itiveness, and he ended up. I think that touchdown energized him. And then he had a big play after the touchdown. He finished with 8 for 82 and a touch, but it was 12 targets. And those 4 that hit the ground, they just didn't look good at all. Keenan Allen's a monster. He's amazing. Will not be denied. 9 for 100 in this day. Jared Cook, 5 for 56. Some data points there. Jalen Guyton, 3 for 49. My man KJ Hill, 3 for 30 in this contest. Austin Eckler, hamstring. What hamstring? 15 for 57 and a touchdown there for Mr. Eckler. Nothing in the receiving game for Eckler. So maybe there's your hamstring answer. But either way, a tough, hard-fought game. Washington's defense are blanky. Imagine the dirtiest word you can think of. That's Washington's defense. They are full of those guys. They can get to you. They can get after you. They got after Herbert, but it fell short.
And you don't want to totally put this on Herbert and say, oh, Justin Herbert is ready to lead this team to the next level, because there was an Antonio Gibson fumble that really turned this game. Washington's team was really resilient in this game.
Yes.
But Herbert was excellent. He had one bad throw in this game, basically. He was excellent. And what you see when you watch Justin Herbert, what you see with him that is really impressive is the whole field's in play. And for him, 15, 20-yard throws downfield are high percentage in the same way that 5, 10-yard passes are for Jared Goff or Teddy Bridgewater. Just it's easy for him. It's easy for him to keep the field in play, to put the ball where he wants to, when he wants to. He's got some good zip on his passes. He's very accurate, but also he's just processing all that visual information and making great decisions and harnessing what he has. It was a better real football performance than fantasy football performance. This wasn't a great fantasy football performance, even though it was a very good performance. He threw the ball like 47 times. Eckler, see, this is a classic glass half full, glass half empty. He gets the first and goal carry inside the 5 and scores, plays guitar, doesn't get a catch. So it's actually a disappointing day for Eckler from a fantasy perspective, although I guess not disappointing in the sense that he came in with a hamstring and came out without any recurrence of the injury. Larry Roundtree was the number 2, not Joshua Kelly, who was a healthy scratch, not Justin Jackson, who's looked pretty good. Keenan Allen, he's going to catch 100 balls. He's going to catch 100 balls like by week 13. Just getting open at will. Herbert, finding him at will. Mike Williams, and Cease again, glass half full, glass half empty. They stuck with him. So Joe Lombardi, bet on him having big numbers. Well, you can see that. You're kind of rigging the game if you're sticking with him. So if you're sticking with him, that's a good sign for the durability of his role in the offense. But if he's doing things where we have to say, oh, they stuck with him through it, if those things persist, then the targets aren't going to persist. Jared Cook was okay. Donald Parham almost got as many snaps as Cook, but it just wasn't running routes or getting targets on those snaps, which is kind of weird considering what Parham is good at. Josh Palmer, the rookie. So lots of reveals here, Cease. By the way, there was a lot of stuff today, general overarching theme. With only 3 preseason games, we got sprung on some stuff. If I'm tripping over my words, Cease, because I was flabbergasted when some of the inactives came out, or we saw some of the usage of players. It wasn't like the 4-game preseason where we had a pretty good picture of what coaches were thinking. And maybe some of these coaches are playing games with us, maybe even trolling us. That's the thing about fantasy football getting so big, Cease. So they know we're paying attention to everything now.
Right.
They know we're parsing
you want the
everything.
injury report? Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but some reveals here is it was Jared Guyton, not Josh Palmer, the rookie who had a really good summer, 3rd-round pick, as the number 3 receiver, which is important. So this Chargers team, they get a win, but with an assist from Antonio Gibson. If he doesn't make a fumble deep in his own end, then maybe this game turns out differently for a Washington team. By the way, Chargers Dallas, get everybody in the lineup for that one. That's going to be another one where both quarterbacks pass like 50 times. But for the Washington, you see the resilience. You remember this team from the end of last year. You remember them against the Bucs in the playoffs. You remember Taylor Heineke, and you don't have to remember now because he's back on the field.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I didn't see it, Bloom. Of course, my opinion on social networking. It's a necessary evil, but it's just like, I'm not going to, oh my God, Ryan Fitzpatrick is down. Whatever. He was going to fizzle out anyway. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a sparkler, okay? Fitzmagic is where you can see the lines. You're like, wait, that lady's not levitating. I see those clear lines holding up the table. Like, yeah, that's your Fitzmagic, all right? You can fool 8-year-olds. That's it. You knew Taylor Heineke was going to get in. Taylor Heineke's good. He's good. And this team believes in him. And that's something that people need to recognize and realize as well. So Fitzpatrick goes out with a hip injury. Heineke comes in, $122 and a touchdown. Nothing to write home about. The touchdown to Logan Thomas, putting above the rim, letting the big man go get it, 3 for 30 and a touch there. Terry McLaurin is amazing. What was that one catch, Bloom? It was like spinning, turning between a defender, sideline 2 feet down, falling backwards. I can't even describe it. Right. I mean, that catch was better than the ODB catch. That his career's never been the same since that catch. That McLaurin catch was amazing. Antonio Gibson, amazing. 20 for 90 on the ground for Gibson, 3 for 18 as a receiver. Yeah. You didn't get a touchdown. You'll be fine. You've got Antonio Gibson. Adam Humphries didn't do as much as maybe some people thought in this one. Hey, no Curtis Samuel. Fitzpatrick will use Humphries as a security blanket. That didn't happen. Fitzpatrick went out after 6 passes. So Heineke's in. They believe in him. They lost today, but man, this team's got fight.
Yeah. The offense did very little outside of Antonio Gibson with Fitzpatrick in. So, see, there was a whole other alternate reality where we were just going to be talking about how Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't really revive anything in this offense. And then maybe we'll see Taylor Heineke soon. Well, again, Fitzpatrick with a hip injury. And they play on Thursday night. So we're going to see Heineke right away. And we're all going to get to see Heineke. Okay? And also we have to say, remember, Brandon Staley has his fingerprints all over this defense now, which has some good players. So we have to give him some credit also. Give Gibson, and see, this is one where he was in not very much on third down, so he wasn't in that McCaffrey kind of role. He was a good runner, but he had that costly fumble. That's what's going to stick out for him, and you hope it just drives him. Again, Giants, who you got to watch at length today. We get to watch the Giants at length against Gibson on Thursday night. You're still fine with Gibson from a fantasy perspective, but from a real football perspective, this one's going to zing. And it was Bosa and Kazir White. Kazir White made the hit. Bosa made the fumble recovery. Again, you didn't see Logan Thomas or Terry McLaurin doing anything with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Heineke comes in, McLaurin with that catch where, again, Heineke's going to give him a chance to make a spectacular play, and Terry McLaurin, more often than not, will make that play. Logan Thomas getting a touchdown. Didn't see much from the rookie Diami Brown, but he was the clear number 2 ahead of Cam Sims. Like you said, Cease, it wasn't like Adam Humphries played a big role here. This one hurts, but it's one. See, it's the NFC East, baby. You know, if you could just win like 4 games in the division, you're probably going to win the division, Washington. So win one of these like this week against the Giants. We'll put this behind us.
You'll be fine. It is the Audible, the Footballguys.com podcast going through our week 1 recap. Great to be back here with you in the chat room, reacting to me and to Bloom as well. And great to have you listen to us, Spotify, Apple Music, however you take in your podcast. We appreciate you. You want to support the show? Go to Footballguys.com and sign up for a Football Guys subscription. Orange button, corner of the screen says join now. Join us. And if you want to dip your toe, what's this Football Guys? I'll give him a chance. Well, check out our free daily newsletter, news updates written by me, Sigmund Bloom, Joe Bryant, hell of a trio, right to your inbox every morning. You've got a life we don't. Save time, worry less. It is footballguys.com. Going on to Eagles and Falcons, and this was, I don't know, Keystone Cops. I mean, even really on both sides sometimes, but the Eagles come out and they get hot, certainly, and look sharper as the game goes on. 32-6, the final score. Jalen Hurts, 3 touchdowns, no INTs, also 62 yards rushing, 264 yards passing. Devontae Smith, 6 for 71, 1 touchdown. Jalen Reagor, 6 for 49, 1 touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 4 for 42. And a touchdown. Miles Sanders, 15 for 74. Some hard-fought yards in there. 4 for 39 as a receiver. But it's Kenneth Gainwell with 9 carries, 37 yards, and the rushing touchdown. So put that one in the mental Rolodex. Quez Watkins, 3 for 23, whatever is whatever. So Philadelphia gets the win. But again, considering the opponent, it's like, okay, good, but how good?
Right, and we didn't necessarily think of the Falcons as an embarrassing opponent. Down in that Texans, Jaguars, Jets tier, Lions, but maybe they are. This looked like a competitive game at first, and the main takeaway you have from the Philly side is that Hurts looked good, very good. This was the kind of game, Cease, if you were a Hurts stan and you want to say, y'all got it all wrong. I don't care about Deshaun Watson. I don't care about the talk about them trading up for Zach Wilson. They have their quarterback. It's Hurts, and he's going to show it. This is that kind of game. Now, granted, it was against a weak opponent, but if you're a good quarterback, you're supposed to make weak opponents look like a tomato can, beat them up. And he did for fantasy, too. Again, we're going to turn around next week. We're going to watch Atlanta play Tampa. Oh, God. Second stringers better get ready to play in the second half next week for Tampa. You saw him do what he was supposed to do. Sanders was solid, got about 2/3 of the snaps. Like you said, Gainwell, Boston Scott, not to be seen. Gainwell getting the touchdown. Gainwell's the guy that you want to have behind Sanders, but Sanders looking good, getting enough usage that he at least should be in your lineup as a running back too, which is what it cost to get him. So that's not bad. Devontae Smith got hot early. And what you like here is you got Devontae Smith, or if you got, even Quez Watkins had the first 3 targets. It looked like he was going to have a massive day at first. Dallas Goedert, who had a decent day, partially because Zach Ertz had a hamstring. We'll see. But you just like the Goddard made a play. I think it was a touchdown that he caught. It counted as a touchdown. Even Jalen Reagor got a touchdown late. But if Jalen Hurts is playing well, at least in these kinds of matchups, the Philadelphia passing game can have some value. I don't know if it'll be consistent value week to week. Next week, they're going to get San Francisco. I don't know what to make out of San Francisco's defense after what we saw. Probably they're decent, but Detroit made that game fun in a plucky kind of way. So we'll see. Again, Cease, we're going to sort out the power ranking, right? We have a pretty good idea that Atlanta's going to be near the bottom of the NFC. Philadelphia, NFC East teams are really tough to gauge, but we know that San Francisco is one of the better teams. I mean, it's going to be a tough out with them playing the way they are right now. We'll get a better idea of where Philadelphia is, but today they passed their easy pop quiz with flying colors.
Yeah, and Arthur Smith failed miserably.
Yeah.
But then you look back at the Titans. Maybe you just need each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that thing. It's like it's not always better apart.
Yeah.
It isn't. Everybody. Matt Ryan, 164 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. Calvin Ridley, 5 for 51. Kyle Pitts, 4 for 31. Hayden Hurst, 4 for 28. You can't give those 4 to Kyle Pitts. Mike Davis got 3 catches. You don't want Mike Davis catching 3 passes. Cordell Patterson was the leading rusher, 7 for 54 on the day. Mike Davis, 15 for 49. Also got rocked. Who was that Eagles defender that rocked him earlier in the game? But anyway.
Brandon Graham.
Okay, the Falcons can do shut your mouth.
Yeah. Well, maybe it wasn't just play calling, right? Because that was the thing. What typified this offense? Red zone fizzling out, and that's what they did early in the game. They settled for some field goals, and it ended up that wasn't even going to be nearly adequate with the defense they have. They should be factoring that in. Talking to you, Mike McCarthy, also. But they had some long drives early. They were running the ball well, poor red zone execution, and the next thing you know, you're buried. So Arthur Smith maybe improving a little bit. I don't know, the running game. And that's the thing I'm going to borrow from my man Eric Stoner in this one, some analysis. It was almost like they were using Kyle Pitts just to get fewer men in the box so they could run the ball more, and not really using him as that passing game centerpiece that he was built as. That being said, again, I'm going to borrow from Eric Stoner and say, because he's really a wide receiver, not a tight end, that meant he was drawing nickelbacks. That meant he was drawing wide receiver kind of attention, which almost made his transition more difficult than if he was a traditional tight end. In this one, Vontae Maddox doing a decent job on him. He still got 8 targets. He was still in on plenty of snaps, 49 snaps. So it's there. Now, next week against Tampa, if it's not there, if it's another kind of 4 for not even 10 yards a catch game, not used in the red zone, that's the other thing that was really disappointing here. Again, for a team that has had red zone woes. The run game started well. Again, Cordero Patterson, the clear number 2 running back. Wayne Gallman not even active for this one, and looks okay. But as the game went on, Philadelphia, who generally has a good run defense, stiffened up here. Russell Gage was in as the number 2 receiver, didn't do anything. Again, it's Hurst, it's Pitts, of course, it's Calvin Ridley, who started hot. Calvin Ridley looked like he was going to have 10 for 120 in this game. And it really didn't do much after those first few successful drives. And again, now Atlanta has to go to Tampa Bay. So, this is just going to be one of those places where they're pick number 4. See, there's a lot of teams like you picked early in last year's draft. You're picking early in this next year's draft. As this team looks like they're in the bottom 3rd at best.
Welcome to the show, the big show. It is the Audible, and I forgot to do Steelers Bills. Okay, well, let's do Steelers Bills now. 23-16, the final score. What's the matter, Buffalo? Ben Roethlisberger, 18 of 32, 188 yards, touchdown, no INTs. Najee Harris, 16 for 45. It's 2.8 a carry, not good. 1 for 4 as a receiver. Juju, 4 for 52, and a key onside kick recovery. Chase Claypool, 3 for 45. Deontay Johnson, I thought he got banged up. 5 for 36 and a touch, came back, got that touchdown. So it's kind of weird. And Claypool had a 25-yard run. So it was like you had a special team score from Pittsburgh on, was a block punt, or you muffed the snap. Either way, so you had a special teams touchdown. You had a Deontay Johnson touchdown. But really, overall, the Steelers didn't look that great, and certainly not offensively, Bloom. Their defense, we'll get to how they affected Buffalo and what that means for the Bills. But what do we take away from Pittsburgh game? I was perplexed this morning watching these guys.
Cease. This is exciting. This is exciting for us as Steelers fans, right? This is something, and I hope that it's at least semi-entertaining as I do on the couch, outside of the couch, and we self-analyze as Steelers fans. This team could be fun to root for, unlike previous teams. You know why?
Why?
Because they're playing like they're underdogs. Because they're playing like they're not entitled to anything.
So they have a true realization of who they are. Because
Yes.
the problem with Steelers teams in the past, Bloom, and you can speak to this,
Yes.
is like, we're the Steelers, of course. We're the best. What are you talking about?
Right.
And now they know, no, you guys suck. You're
Right.
third in your division. So
Yeah,
play like it.
You have to play above your heads. You have to make things happen. You have to squeeze the best out of yourself to beat teams that might have you off length. See, this is your Broncos team that won the Super Bowl with the corpse of Peyton Manning. Just don't turn the ball over. We know you can't push the ball down the field now. We know it's embarrassing when you try, but we also know when it's 3rd and 6 that you maybe can make something happen and keep the chains moving for us, right? So the Steelers offense, this is a team that's going to rely on their defense. And see, so I think what you're going to see is hopefully You reel things back in. Roethlisberger should never be over 35 or 40 attempts in a game. At this point, he's not extending plays. Good things are not going to happen when the play's not initially there. You want to just throw it away. Right. That's okay because the defense says, and the special teams today, welcome Miles Killebrew, they make some things happen. Ulysses Gilbert. That was the key play of the game. That's underdogs making things happen with special teams. See, how many times have we talked about the Steelers on this show in the 16 years we've been doing it, saying, Steelers win with special teams? That doesn't happen.
That's what you do for bad teams.
Right. So it was like a magic trick that they went into Buffalo. And this Buffalo stadium was a party. They were ready. Wow. They were ready to say, Buffalo. We're ready. Yeah, and also this is going to be the best Buffalo season since the 90s, right? So the Steelers came in and ruined that party. But Roethlisberger, he's just going to pass short and safe. Deontay Johnson got a little banged up in this one, made an amazing concentration toe tap catch for a touchdown here. Again, what does it take for the Steelers to win? Deontay Johnson has to make a play that is almost impossible to make, and they have to get a block punt touchdown. If they can do that every week, maybe they can contend. Najee Harris, every single running back snap, every single snap. Still didn't do anything for fantasy, still didn't get much in terms of targets. Buffalo's defense isn't exactly stout. You're going to stick with Harris next week against the Raiders, and we'll see. And we'll see. Hopefully they'll be 2-0. But see, it's easy to root for this team when you know they're not feeling like they're promised anything or entitled to anything, that they're playing with hunger. And I think going into an opposing stadium and see, what do we remember about these great Steelers teams of the past? Really tough on the road. Not a team that's going to be at all intimidated. And think about the word intimidate, made timid. This team was not timid at all in this game. And it wasn't like the Bills were timid either. This was kind of a good old AFC power battle. And for the Bills, I think it may be the best thing for them that they start out the season saying, no, nothing's promised to you either.
Do you know what I thought when I saw Ben play today?
What?
He's not faking it anymore.
No.
Remember we used to make fun of him because he'd like take a sack and he'd get up and like my neck and my back.
He like, did fall awkwardly. He did one of the most awkward slides. He did an old man slide. Yeah. And he got up like, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, he's not faking it anymore. He's broken. Yeah. He's broken. So you won with a broken quarterback. What's that say about Buffalo, dude? Like Josh Allen sacked 3 times, harassed generally all day, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Stephon Diggs 9 for 69, it's enough. Gabriel Davis 2 for 40, and he had the touchdown. But there were times when like Davis was just out of sync or off, and that's usually doesn't happen with Davis. Usually he's very, very reliable. Got a little bit banged up too. Emmanuel Sanders did play 4 for 52. Dawson Knox 4 for 41. Cole Beasley 8 for 60. Speaking of being off and having some plays that didn't go Beasley's way. Devin Singletary 11 for 72. There's the Zach Moss thing to get into. Like lots of stuff going on with Buffalo, and certainly not the way they wanted to start their season, especially at home.
Well, you had talk of the Super Bowl, right? The next step on the mountain to get to the mountaintop. Oh no, let's back up. How about winning this week? Let's not be thinking ahead too much. And I think that's what happened to Buffalo a bit here. Some of it is the Steelers defense was spirited, man. Melvin Ingram. See, can we just we get to watch Melvin Ingram in a Steelers uniform, man.
When Melvin Ingram was making plays, I was like, how did you all let this happen?
Oh, NFL.
How did you as the league let this happen?
You messed up. Highsmith's hurt, but it doesn't matter. The way he's playing, Devin Bush is back out there. Stephon Tuitt wasn't out there. You didn't even miss him. Cam Sutton making plays here. And they were really containing Josh Allen. Josh Allen, okay, again, see, this is kind of like the Lamar Jackson thing. You take the league by storm. They're off balance. But you can't just do the same thing next year. You have to have another move. And when Josh Allen was a runner, I know you see 9 for 44 and you think, for fantasy, that's nice. He sprinkled in some running production. When he was a runner, the Steelers were all over him. Those plays were not, they were exposing Josh Allen to hits and they weren't tactically helping the offense. It wasn't like they were using them to set other things up. What was there was short stuff to Diggs, short stuff to Beasley. You did have Davis make one big play and get a touchdown after that. Sanders was okay. So you've seen this pass offense is going to be spread out, and he's going to pass a lot. The running game, you mentioned Zach Moss, inactive, not quite sure what's behind that. It isn't like Matt Breida was going to be in a committee with Singletary. It was all Singletary. He had one of the better offensive plays, a couple of the better offensive plays for this offense, but it was just chipping away. And see, this is those Steelers defenses that define the team, and that's what they're going for this year. So pass volume, Allen, like 51 pass attempts. He was okay, and that's the good thing. Like Allen was, 18, 20 points for fantasy. If that's your floor, you can take that. He's going to get Miami next week. Maybe not quite as much of a floor game defense as the Steelers, but still not exactly a ceiling game defense. But what you will also see here is how does this work, Cease? Because we saw in the playoffs last year, Buffalo wasn't getting the drop on defenses. Even the Colts defense held them down for a little while. Now, is this going to be like last year was for Lamar Jackson, where Josh Allen, basically what he does well will be improvise, and this offense will be limited the same way we saw it very limited against the Chiefs, the same way we saw it very limited against the Ravens. In the playoffs, it looked very limited in this one. Again, they're going to go to Miami, Cease, and you want to go to the Super Bowl? 0-2. That's no way to start a Super Bowl season.
Not at all. How about an overtime win? That's a good way to start. If you're Cincinnati, they win 27-24 over Minnesota. Let's start with the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, couple of touchdowns, 351 yards. He had Adam Thielen get both of them, so 9 for 92 and 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 5 for 71. It's enough. Calm down. You have Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne, 7 for 76 in this contest. Dalvin Cook, 6 for 43 as a receiver, and then 20 for 61 and a rushing touchdown on the ground because, well, that's what he does. And then, well, maybe Tyler Conklin can do something. 4 for 41. So it was Minnesota, but it was Minnesota that, the old pull on, I have an electric lawnmower, right? Mm-hmm. My neighbors make fun of me because it has headlights. It's like, why do you have headlights on the lawn? But anyway,
you never know.
But this is like the old. This is the Vikings offense was like the old lawnmower with the pull cord, and you pull your shoulder out of your sock trying to get the thing started, and then eventually it would start, and you'd mow your yard, and then the next time you went to mow, it like wouldn't start. That's what Minnesota's offense seemed like today.
Mm-hmm. You really felt good for Cincinnati in this one. Remember, this is the game with Joe Burrow coming back from an injury, catastrophic knee and surgery, not feeling great at the open of camp. Minnesota, Mike Zimmer. See, in some ways, what encapsulates this game for me is Mike Zimmer iced the kicker and Evan McPherson, the rookie. Why are you icing a rookie? And he missed. And then he made it on the second kick. That's kind of how it went.
Of course.
I think Cincinnati kind of outplayed Minnesota in this game. You did see, when Minnesota falls behind by 2 scores like they did, Kirk Cousins is going to have a good day for fantasy. Adam Thielen getting the touchdowns, one of them off of an easy turnover. So, again, this game could have been a lot worse as far as the Bengals winning more comfortably. You did see Greg Joseph. Bengals have had kicker problems for a while. He did make a long field goal to send this one to OT. Again, Cousins throwing 49 times. How often is that going to happen? But what did you get out of it? Thielen got the 2 touchdowns. Jefferson tackled at the 1, might have been a touchdown. KJ Osborne, the clear number 3 receiver, racking up some short catches. Tyler Conklin, the clear number 1 tight end and healthy. So maybe he didn't have a big day, even though Cousins threw the ball 49 times, but you're still pleased with the usage and the offense. And then Dalvin Cook. And look, Cincinnati's defense was tough. Remember they signed DJ Reader. They got Tyler Shelvin. He was inactive. I'm just saying they have a dedication to stopping the run. And things were not easy for Dalvin Cook. Even on Dalvin Cook's touchdown, he had to fight his way through traffic to get that touchdown. Was used often as a receiver. So this is a floor game for Cook. So you're happy with that. I think you can just see that Minnesota is not really a credible team right now. And I'm not saying the Bengals are, but wins like this help them get closer. You saw the emotion from Joe Burrow in this one, Cease. This one really meant something. There was a lot of Minnesota fans. It was the kind of game you're watching it on TV, and you couldn't tell if you were just listening to the audio where it was. There were a lot of Minnesota fans down there, so they delivered one for the home fans at the end of overtime. So I think in a definitive win that really gets them off on the right foot and winning season or playoffs, let's not get ahead of ourselves. A team that plays with pride, a team that's a tough out, especially at home, they're getting there.
They are getting there, and that's what matters. Bengals, Joe Burrow, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, 20 of 27, 260 yards, 261 to be precise. Jamar Chase, all he does is drop passes until he catches them. 5 for 101 and a touch. T. Higgins, 4 for 58 and a touch. Tyler Boyd, 3 for 32 on the day, so you're sad there. Joe Mixon, you're not sad. You're just wondering, can he last the whole season? That we knew Mixon was going to do this, right? Oh my God, Joe Mixon, what a great guy. Yes, of course, he's going to do this. But does he do it for 10 games, 5 games, 15 games? I don't think it's going to be 17 games. And I'm not saying 127 yards every week, Bloom. But like Mixon with this large workload, he's going to be everything for the offense. Yes, this was the design for this season, but this design has an expiration date. We just don't know when that is.
And we'll just enjoy this. See, let's savor this. Let's save this for the long-suffering Bengals fans out there, all right? What you did see is they came to their senses. Again, Joe Burrow threw the ball to wide receivers 28.4 times per game in 10 games last year. And this week, he didn't throw the ball nearly that many times to wide receivers. And you did see also Jamar Chase, after so many poor items about him out of training camp, similar to his college teammate Justin Jefferson. Once he gets out on the field, oh yeah, he's still that guy. Year off, making all these excuses for him. No, he's fine. He led the team in snaps. He led the wide receivers, obviously, in production. And you saw that deep ball. Joe Burrow could throw a deep ball. Yes, especially to his college teammate, Jamar Chase. Joe Mixon was everything they wanted him to be. And by letting Joe Mixon carry the load, it takes a lot off of Burrow's plate as far as leaving him back there as a sitting duck like he was at times last year. Higgins gets a touchdown. Boyd, and that's the thing, right? If he's not throwing 40, 45, 50 times a game, now that all those Tyler Boyd picks, I liked Tyler Boyd a lot, thinking he was going to catch 100 balls at least this year. But they aren't relying on the passing game like they were last year. Like you said, it's just a matter of time, maybe with Mixon, Samaje Perine, the clear number 2 there. The other thing, like CJ Uzoma, who we watched go down with an Achilles in week 2 last year, making the play that sets up the game-winning field goal, a stiff arm, all the way back. Again, you see the home crowd going crazy. And then Cincinnati gets to go to Chicago. Entertaining ideas of a 2-0 start, maybe.
No, we'll see. You mentioned earlier about the plucky Lions.
Yeah.
It's Dan Campbell. So if plucky means like 4 espresso shots into your Starbucks Americano, then yes, that's plucky. And you knew the 49ers, like, we got this wrapped up at halftime, and then the Lions kept fighting, but they kept fighting. And it made it entertaining. 41-33, the final score. San Francisco gets that win. And yes, Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo both played. Garoppolo, 17-25, 314 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Trey Lance plays 101, 5 yards, 1 touchdown. So there you go. Lance also in some bad situations. They tried to make him as a runner. What was that? Well, like 3rd and 18, something blew him. I'm like, oh, come on, please. Elijah Mitchell. So, hey, and we knew they have a talented backfield. Whoever's going to get the touches is going to produce. It's San Francisco. It's a Shanahan system. It's Elijah Mitchell this week. Can't say it'll be that way every week, but 19 for 104 and a touch. Jermichael Hasty gets a touchdown as well. Raheem Mostert, 2 for 20 in this one. And then Deebo Samuel, 9 for 189 and a touchdown. George Kittle, 4 for 78 in this contest. Trent Sherfield, 2 for 23. Oh, the Ayuk fantasy GMs are mad. Right. The Trey Sermon fantasy GMs are mad. Hell, the Mostert fans are mad. Everybody's mad. But San Francisco won, and they were kind of mad that Detroit kept fighting.
Yeah, this game was over, and Detroit said no. See, this is the kind of game at the end, even though they lost, Dan Campbell says, we're all going out for ice cream. Yay! Because I'm proud of each and every one of you. Because they're so overmatched. The Lions are so overmatched. Now, some of this is San Francisco, but they're so overmatched. It's going to be quite a race for the number 1 pick this year. Houston's win today may end up being crucial in the number 1 pick race as Detroit. Again, with the plucky fight, though, we may see them win, even on Thanksgiving. Who do they play? I don't even know. Everything was easy against the Detroit defense, and I think they lost Jeffrey Okudah to an Achilles. You only have a couple of good players on defense. You can't afford to lose one of them. Jimmy Garoppolo fumbled exchange on the first play, and everything else was easy. Really easy for him and this offense. You did get to see actually Trey Lance, though, throw the first touchdown of the game. That being said, Cease, this was the kind of game that tells me the Trey Lance doomsday clock, it's a ways off in the future. I don't think we're going to see Lance in the first month of the season take over as a starter. I don't know if we're going to see him this year take over as the starter.
All it takes is Jimmy getting a hangnail, though. Remember,
that's true.
The team, and I said this behind the scenes, the team was mad because when Jimmy's been banged up, they think he can play, and he doesn't.
That's true.
But all it takes is a hangnail, a stub toe, tripping over his dog in the driveway, or slapping Trevor Price's wife on the ass at a party. I don't know what happened. I'm not talking about anything specifically, but, that's all it takes, dude. So I get you. I get you. Doomsday clock is way off, but maybe.
Yeah, Ben Jamin says Lions Bears on Thanksgiving. That's a perfect team for them to upset in this plucky fashion. So Mostert doesn't even make it through a quarter. Enter Trey Sermon. No, he was inactive. One of the beat writers saying they just thought he wasn't ready. They just thought Mitchell and Hasty beat him out. Well, this would have been nice to know. There's no real indication of that out of training camp. They were giving Trey Sermon first team snaps back in the spring. So, preview of the waiver wire show, you got to go strong to the hole for Mitchell. You gotta. I know, like you said, it's Shanahanigans and everything. And Trey Sermon may have more ability than Mitchell, but who cares? Mike Anderson, Olandis Gary, ability doesn't matter. It's just meshing with the system. Elijah Mitchell sure looks like he does. He's straight line, good acceleration, decisive. Sounds like a Shanahan back to me. You didn't see even much of Hasty, who got a touchdown that maybe wasn't even a touchdown. So going into this game against Philadelphia, who did have a run defense that stiffened up against Atlanta as the game went on, you're still going to like Mitchell. I think you err on the side of going strong for Mitchell and the waiver wire. The other thing that's going to happen here is when they win comfortably, limited pass attempts. Deebo Samuel looked amazing. The Lions defense looked like a JV defense trying to tackle him, stick with him on a long bomb touchdown that really made his day. Kittle, same thing. Ayuk, well, you just don't need Ayuk. You don't need all three of these guys. And you also had Trent Sherfield catching a touchdown, who had a really good spring and summer. So Philadelphia, everything's on track. I know you look at this. I don't know what the spread was. I think it was 7.5. Like there was some real. Cease. Have you noticed how gambling is just integrated in NFL coverage now? Mm-hmm. Like we've completely arrived.
It's so weird. It's so bizarre.
It is weird, but I think the line was 7.5, which probably had some people sweating. And this is just that classic game where there's a lot of, I don't want to say meaningless fantasy numbers, because I think for the Lions, for the culture Dan Campbell's trying to build, again, I think this is a game that he'll be happy with, even though it's a game that shows just how far behind the rest of the league they really are.
Let's talk about the Lions and Jared Goff, 3 for 38, 3 touchdowns and an INT. Okay, DJ Hawkinson 8 for 97 and a touch. DeAndre Swift 8 for 65 and a touch. That's when they were like, let's just play prevent. Oh God, DeAndre just ran past us all. Quintus Cephas 3 for 12 and a touchdown there. We saw him trying to go after Trinity. That didn't hook up. Khalif Raymond, my man, Khalif. I love him. Love it. Such a good kid. 3 for 50 in this day and making some tough catches. Usually those are the ones that he would drop with Tennessee and Denver. But Khalif Raymond out there making some plays. Jamal Williams making plays, 8 for 56 as a receiver, and then 9 for 54 and a rushing touchdown. DeAndre Swift, 11 for 39 on the ground, by the way. So, again, this thing gets out of control. It's 31-10 at halftime. They're going to go away from the ground game, although they did carry it 24 times. But Goff throwing 57 times isn't what they want, Bloom.
No, it's not. You also look at this team. I mean, this was weird. Coming into the game, DeAndre Swift's not going to be the starter. Jamal Williams is going to carry the load. We don't know what's going to even happen now. But it ends up in garbage time. This team is going to use the running backs a lot. You got TJ Hawkinson. Again, you see that number of pass attempts. You know it's going to be a good game for TJ Hawkinson. It was. He far and away led the offense. Skill players and snaps. You hope they don't break him. DeAndre Swift, by the way, 63 snaps to Jamal Williams, 32 again, PFF, Nathan Janke with these numbers. So Swift, they're both good plays. They're both running back ones this week. The Lions, a losing team, creating 2 running back ones. Well, they were down, I think it was like 41-17, and then had this flurry at the end of the game. Had a chance to tie the game at the end. But a lot of that was against the San Francisco that was already thinking about what they were going to get to eat on the plane on the way home or something like that. Okay, when Lions can run the ball, so we're going to like Swift as a running back 2. We're going to like Jamal Williams as a flex. Maybe they'll both be running back 2s because they don't have wide receivers that they can really count on. Maybe the running backs are just going to continue to get all these short passes. See, there was a point, I want to say Jared Goff had completed like 12, 13, 14 passes for 82 yards, something like that. A Jared Goff line. And I know it got a little bit better as the game went on, but when the game is competitive, that's what this offense is going to look like. Goff threw pick 6. You also saw, again, it's garbage time. Swift's touchdown, Williams touchdown, Cephas' touchdown, 2-point conversion. Garbage time, okay? Will garbage time be there every week? Possibly. Next week against Green Bay on Monday night? Probably. Am I going to count on garbage time? I don't know. It can still be a winning strategy. I'm not sold yet. I am sold this team's going to play their hearts out for Dan Campbell.
Until they don't. Yeah. That message wears thin if you don't win.
Yeah. So, ice cream.
Hey, I'm sick of ice cream. I want wins. Seattle and Indianapolis, the final of the morning games. Then we'll get to the afternoon games, including the Broncos. That wasn't the show, though. But 28-16, Seahawks are the show. They win over Indy. Russell Wilson dealing 4 touchdowns, 254 yards. And no offense, because I know people like Chris Carson or whatever. And Rashad Penny got hurt again. Shocker. DJ Dallas, whatever. Like, he's average. But why doesn't Seattle take running back seriously? Like, imagine a great runner on this team, right? Imagine a Javonte Williams on this team, something like that. Then you're like, oh my God. And I know Chris Carson 16 for 91 in this one. You're like, okay, they had that fumble. All right, whatever. 3 for 26 as a receiver. Fine. He's going to last all season. Probably not. D. Eskridge had 2 for 22 as the second leading rusher. Tyler Lockett, amazing. 4 for 102 touchdowns. That value was always there compared to DK. And at one point, DK had 0 catches. People are getting worried, nervous. 4 for 60 and a touch. That's plenty. Gerald Everett, 2 for 20 and a touch. Okay. Will Dissly out there like throwing fools around. Will Dissly. You got Disslied? You got Disslied. 3 for 37. It's like a rap battle with Will Dissly out there. So here we go. Seattle put the hammer down, kept the hammer down, and the Colts have their own problems. We'll get to in just a little bit.
It isn't exactly like they made this a Russell Wilson offense, okay? Because he threw the ball 23 times. But he was locked in. This offense was locked in. And they got out to an early lead. This wasn't Russell Wilson coming back in the second half. They controlled this game on the road pretty comfortably. Wilson just looks locked in. That's all I can say. Carson looks good. Finishing runs with authority. And, again, fumble. But with Rashad Penny hurt, there's not really a threat to his workload. Again, Tennessee next week, yes. Sign me up. Tyler Lockett, he's healthy. He had a little injury scare in this one. One of his touchdowns, the adjustment he made from the inside shoulder to the outside shoulder in stride, tracking the ball. It's virtuoso stuff, Cecil. Virtuoso stuff. There's only a few guys that play the game that can really do that as seamlessly as he did it and convert the play. And Russell Wilson knows he can. That's the thing. That's what's so beautiful about the Wilson to Lockett hookup. Again, Cecil, quarterbacks challenging their great players to make great plays, and they make great plays. DK Metcalf making the touchdown to basically clinch the game. Gerald Everett had a touchdown. Nice catch to Everett. Zinged it in there. Wilson zinged it in there. Everett goes full extension, gets it nice. It wasn't like it was a tough ball to catch, but it was just beautiful. But as you said, Will Dissly, equal snaps, equal role in the passing game, equal quality player all the way back from 2 catastrophic injuries. They made it look easy. And they get Tennessee next week. So again, NFC West, man. NFC West. San Francisco, okay, Detroit, Tennessee, Indy. Maybe what we're seeing is just how much better the AFC West is than the AFC South. Am I transposing AFC and NFC again? The point is, Tennessee and Indy, those are your top 2 teams. Houston and Jacksonville, the other 2 teams, okay? How great is it, by the way, that we're going to see all the NFC West teams play Houston and play Jacksonville? Oh, man. Because you see what they did to Tennessee and Indy, and those are the teams that are supposed to be the class of the AFC South.
Right.
All right. So, again, Tennessee next week. Indy, new era with Carson Wentz. Well, maybe it's not really that great.
Playing the South has your compass going north. Never eat sour wheat. I don't know what that means. The Colts up next. And what's the matter with Carson Wentz? That's a large conversation. We could have the whole show on that. But like the foot injury, you just see he doesn't plant as well. Now he had 2 touchdowns, no INTs, 251 yards passing, but he's not moving well when he has to move. He's not planning as well as he could. He's just generally off. Jonathan Taylor, 17 for 56 on the ground, 6 for 60 as a receiver. Nyheim Hines, 9 for 34 on the ground, 6 for 48 as a receiver. Zach Pascal, 4 for 43 and 2 touchdowns. Why do I have a feeling it's going to be Michael Pittman doing that next week? 3 for 29 for Pittman, and that's it. Paris Campbell, tons of speed, 1 for 24. No tight end did anything of note, whether it's Jack Doyle or Mo Alley Cox or anything. And Indy just looks uninspired, unintentional. I don't know what that means, but like just bad football watching the Colts.
Yeah, Cecil, and I think that what we saw was this offense was better with Phillip Rivers. I mean, at least today. I know Wentz needs to knock some rust off. I just don't see Frank Reich doing much and Wentz giving Reich much to work with to improve this offense. One of the things on the reveal here, kind of a committee. with Hines and Taylor. It's still Taylor over Hines, but Hines got in a ton in this game. He was in for 34 snaps to Taylor's 42, and he was touching the ball a lot as a receiver. He's a flex play with some upside. And Taylor is still a running back 2 with running back 1 upside, but he's not going to dominate this backfield in terms of snaps and touches. Zach Pascal worked in the middle of the field. Zach Hicks called that before the game, that he was going to have a big game with the 2 touchdowns. But you're spreading the ball out. Even though the Titans didn't do anything, they're going to get targets. The running backs are going to get targets. It's like Phillip Rivers is still there. So he's running backs basically leading the passing game. Not much from Paris Campbell, the number 3 receiver. Not much from Pittman, the number 1 receiver. Well, if he's getting number 1 corners, next week Indianapolis plays the Rams. Michael Pittman against Jalen Ramsey. I'll be pretty impressed if he does that. Yeah. So, and again, what's the answer going to be for this Indianapolis offense that doesn't seem that dangerous, that doesn't seem that threatening? Seattle's defense is not one that we see as a shutdown defense. With the Rams coming, see, so we looked at this whenever Wentz got hurt and Ryan Kelly was hurt and Quentin Nelson was hurt, and we looked at the early schedule and we said, whew, that's tough. And now we're seeing it play out, that the Colts, now you're in the AFC South, so you could start 1-4 and maybe still be fine. But at the same time, you see, again, NFC West, AFC South, different class. And guess what? Indy has to play the NFC West again next week.
Again, we continue on the Audible. It is the Footballguys.com podcast. Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom going through the day's action that was in the National Football League. We have 4 games left in the afternoon games, and the show was the Browns and the Chiefs.
Right.
And for a time, the show looked like Cleveland's going to do this. And Cleveland's going to do it without Odell Beckham Jr.? Okay. In the end, though, they fall short, 33-29, the final score. Kansas City gets it going. But Baker says, I'm going to throw for 321 yards, no touchdowns, 1 INT in this one. David Njoku, remember him? 3 for 76. Jarvis Landry, 5 for 71. Anthony Schwartz was with you, 3 for 69. Kareem Hunt, 3 for 28 as a receiver, 6 for 33, and a rushing touchdown. By the way, Jarvis Landry had a rushing touchdown. And by the way, Nick Chubb is amazing, 16 for 83 and 2 touchdowns. Chubb also had 2 for 18 as a receiver. So this one was just interesting with the way that it started, with the way that Cleveland ran the ball. They had success, those 4 rushing touchdowns, but couldn't hold on at the end.
It's almost a letdown, Cease, that you put this at the beginning of the afternoon games. We really needed to end with this game because all the other afternoon games were a letdown compared to this game, and that's unfair to those other games because we had the most exciting playoff game from last year. Well, NFC Championship was good too, but I think the Cleveland-Kansas City game was the most exciting game. You have a rematch right away, and it lives up to it, Cease. This reminded me of one of those games deeper in the NCAA basketball tournament where you have a number 1 seed that's established and everyone knows that they are a championship favorite, and then you have the upstart team that is playing like a champion and they want to prove they can be a champion, and they jump out to lead and they show they can not just play with the favored team, but they can actually be better than the favored team. But then when it comes time to actually make the plays to finish, they can't. And this isn't something where, to Cleveland's credit, you can say, well, Patrick Mahomes was hurt. No. Mahomes was out there doing Mahomes things, and Cleveland was staying with them, actually setting the pace early in this game, the Kevin Stefanski offense. And you see Chubb and Hunt, the Chubb-Hunt offense. Chubb did have a fumble in this one. Hunt, again, clearly behind Chubb, but gets a touchdown. Still is going to keep giving you reasons to put him in your lineup as a flex or running back 2, at least in matchups like this. Chubb looks great, except for the fumble. Beckham, I got Beckham everywhere because, he's still Odell Beckham, I thought. It wasn't in week 1. I don't know if something went bad in the warm-up. I don't know if we're going to see him next week against Houston. That'd be sad if he has to miss the Houston game. And by the way, Cleveland's fine, right? Going into this game, we thought the range was, well, Kansas City will put them back in their place and show them they still have work to do, or they'll hang with them. And they hung with them and then some, to the point where now they feel like, well, maybe we're better than this team, but we have to learn how to finish against them. How do they not finish? I guess Baker Mayfield? See, sometimes when I watch Baker Mayfield, I think he was a number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a first-round pick.
Teams clamoring so much that the Browns are like, we're going to take him. You're never going to get him.
Yeah, and I get it in a way because everyone's so quarterback hungry, but it's those plays, like the play at the end when he wasn't quite fleet enough of foot to escape the pressure or enough natural arm strength to just throw the ball out of bounds. Just that little bit. you take quarterbacks high, someone like Trey Lance, for instance, you want them to be able to extend the play. You want them to be able to make plays outside of structure. That's not so much Baker Mayfield. And you just saw this offense shrink. You did see Jarvis Landry looking good without Beckham out there. Had a touchdown on a handoff, basically. Tough runner. Well, another thing you saw here is David Njoku, by the way. We heard that stuff about him and the team patching things up, and Njoku wants to stay Brown. And you wondered, really, after how things have gone? But he was actually the more impressive receiving tight end here, maybe the one that will have some lasting fantasy value. Anthony Schwartz, as you mentioned, used the Schwartz, not Donovan Peoples-Jones. You think Beckham's out, Peoples-Jones, this is your moment. Actually, it was Schwartz, the third-round pick with that speed. So that's important for extending the field, stretching the defense on those play-action passes. Everything was going Cleveland's way in the first half. Early in the second half, Kevin Stefanski offense looking very good against Kansas City, and then it wasn't. And I think that's that mental toughness. That's that belief in self, maybe, that you see in those NCAA tournament games. You get late, and the favorite, that team, just asserts themselves. That's what happened in this one, but I still think you see that Cleveland can hang with Kansas City, and Kansas City, they can hang with anybody, Cease, and they can certainly hang with Houston next week.
Well, Bloom, this is how you sneak into the Super Bowl. You act like you belong.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the Browns, because it's like, this is too good to be true, right? We can't be here, right? Oh, God, we lost. See, we shouldn't be there. No, believe. If you can believe, you can achieve. And that's my quote from Anthony. Look, everybody, it's Tony Robbins. Look, everybody, it's Pat Mahomes kicking ass on the wild side. 3 touchdowns, 337 yards, of course, rushing touchdown on the day. So maybe you didn't lose if you faced Kyler Murray, if you had Pat Mahomes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 14 for 43 in this one. Edwards-Helaire also 3 for 29 as a receiver. Tyreek Hill, 11 for 197 and a touch. Just kind of what he does. Travis Kelce, 6 for 76 and 2 touchdowns on the day. Stop trying to make McCall Hardman a thing. I got McCall. I really feel good about McCall. Why? 3 for 19. This is him. This is him. Tyreek gets everything. Why is everyone doing this? I really think McCall. And then you know what you have besides the McCall Hardman truthers, Bloom? You have the people that are like, it's really going to be Demarcus Robinson. It's not going to be anybody but Tyreek and Travis.
Yeah.
Unless one of those guys is hurt. So stop trying to make Fetch a thing. Stop trying to make McCall Hardman a thing. Sorry. I still like Blake Bell. But anyway, here we go.
Yeah, and I look, I'm one of those people that still, I like Hardman because I just think you get a piece of Mahomes, but you're right. The reveal here is it's going to stay the same. It's going to be Hill. It's going to be Kelce. It's not even going to be Edwards-Helaire, who is going to lead the backfield in touches decisively, but can he turn those touches into something?
Can he turn those touches into something? Bloom probably clicked the wrong thing. That's what we're talking about here. When we're talking about Kansas City and the offense that is dazzling as we go through technical difficulties. It is New Orleans where Bloom is at, and thankfully everything's okay for him. And internet going in and out, or
no.
Did you click?
I flushed myself. I was moving my. That was my
because I was blasting the McCall Hardman.
No, that was me hanging my head because I have McCall Hardman on some of my teams. I flushed myself as punishment for that. Okay, yeah, I was just really. That's self-flagellation, Cease. That's the podcast version of self-flagellation. But the same as it ever was, even again with Edwards-Helaire and with Patrick Mahomes making those plays. And hey, the Browns had a chance to win at the end of this one. And they were even managing the clock well, so they weren't going to give Mahomes a chance if they were able to go down and score that go-ahead touchdown. They weren't. Chris Jones, some Kansas City defensive players, they didn't have the Honey Badger making a big impact in this one. So Kansas City, Cease, they're playing like one of those teams that trust themselves. They do have that belief in themselves, and it comes across, and they need it next week against Baltimore.
Need it the next week against Baltimore. The chat room is amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
We have amazing people that listen to this show. The Dolphins are pretty amazing, and they ruined Mac Jones' debut, 17-16, the final score. Miami gets the win. Tua Tagovailoa has the starting job for now. 202 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. The touchdown to Jalen Waddle, 4 for 61 and a touch. Devontae Parker, 4 for 81 in this contest. Myles Gaskin, 5 for 27 as a receiver, 9 for 49 as a rusher. Tua, by the way, had a rushing touchdown to benefit his fantasy day if you had him in. They really don't run the ball well. I mean, 74 yards on the day, 23 carries. And passing the ball well, that they don't do that well either. But Waddle, Parker, Tua, they did enough. And well, they hold off the Patriots, who were feeling good about making that Mac Jones decision, still feeling good about that, but didn't get the win today.
Opportunistic performance. And you go into New England, even without Tom Brady, you go into New England in an AFC East game and you win, you feel good. And Tua was solid. Tua, not necessarily, even though he scored a rushing touchdown, not a great fantasy day. Still just a quarterback 2 super flex material, not exactly exciting. Although some of this, we have to give some credit to Bill Belichick and this defense. You did see Jalen Waddle with that athleticism diving for the pylon. Myles Gaskin, maybe the talk of the committee a bit overblown, but still, he's just a flex play. So if you're drafting him 6th, 7th, 8th round, that's probably where he belonged. Mike Gesicki's not going to do much here. And you did see Devontae Parker make some plays. You did see Waddle get the touchdown. Enter Will Fuller next week. So if this is against Buffalo's defense, if this is going to be a somewhat conservative offense, a team that gets some bounces, get some things to go their way, that's how they beat teams that they measure up pretty equally with, like they did with this Patriots team. How exciting is this fantasy offense going to be? Not very exciting. But what you do like to see, Cease, is for Tua Tagovailoa, unlike a quarterback we're going to talk about that faced the Broncos, he made a statement that, no, like Jalen Hurts, this can be my team. This is the kind of game you wanted for Tua. Going in and beating Bill Belichick in Foxborough, that's how you convince your owner, your coach, that's your team. Tua's going to be their guy. So let's see if he can keep it up against Buffalo next week.
Patriots have their guide is Mac Jones, 281 yards on 29 of 39 passing, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Nelson Aguilar, the preferred receiver, 5 for 72 and a touch for him. And James White had 7 targets as well, like Aguilar, 6 for 49, also 4 for 12 as a runner. Damian Harris with 23 for 100 in this game. Your Ramondre Stevenson stock is down, 1 for 2. There you go. Also a catch for 9 yards from the rookie. Jacoby Myers, 6 for 44. Hey, let's make Jonnu Smith the thing, 5 for 42. Hunter Henry, 3 for 31. Splitting time, splitting targets, and splitting headache for fantasy GMs out there.
Yeah.
If you're making some Patriots decisions, not named Damian Harris, and I guess, Bloom, Nelson Aguilar with some flex appeal.
Right. This was supposed to be the tight end offense, right? And actually it was Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers and James White. Maybe Mac Jones' best play of the day, best pass on a wheel route to James White. Not so much Jonnu Smith, did okay. Hunter Henry had a few dump offs, really. But it was Nelson Aguilar making some things happen, even against those tough Dolphins corners. Damian Harris, the running game on track. What's Bill Belichick going to remember about this game on offense? These fumbles. Splitting headache. By the way, you should patent that. Yeah. Splitting touches, splitting headache for fantasy. Ramondre Stevenson fumble. Oh, great. Damian Harris. And he did really take over the backfield after that. But then Harris with a costly fumble. So these are things that are going to keep Belichick up at night. These are things that with Mac Jones, who's solid, he's not going to add a lot of value, but he's going to execute. He's going to harvest the value that's there against a tough defense, mind you. They can't afford those kind of plays. The good thing is they get to face the Jets next week. Everything's okay. Everyone will feel better after you face the Jets.
Feel better after you face the Jets, unless you're the Packers and you're like,
no.
Last dance is when you got stood up. Like last dance,
you're right.
What? Like last dance, like huh? And
last dance, they just stayed in the motel room with a 24 natty lights. They didn't go to the prom.
Yeah, you got the Boone's Farm. You're fine.
Yeah,
you got Mad Dog 2020. You're fine. Oh, the swill that we used to ingest as youth. 38-3, the final score. What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, what the hell? Like, seriously, other than Devontae Adams, who's okay with 5 for 56, what the hell, Aaron Rodgers? This is the guy? Okay. What the hell, Aaron Jones? Just seriously, what the hell for the Packers? I'm not even going to go through the box score. Why? Why? Awful.
Yeah. I'm going to give Eric Stoner the center stage again. He said that the Packers went down to Jacksonville like in 2016 or so and had a similar kind of game where Jacksonville beat them. Maybe it's the swampy heat, man. Maybe it's the humidity. Like Golden Girls, that was in Florida, right? I think Blanche Dubois, this is too sultry for me.
I got the vapors.
Aaron Rodgers with long hair. It's like my neck's getting sweaty. I don't feel comfortable. They just didn't look comfortable on either side of the ball. This is a weird game. Now, granted, Cease, what's the game that comes to mind right away when you're watching this game? The Saints last year put the worst whooping on Tom Brady. I mean, there might have been games equal. There hasn't been a game where Brady took a worse whooping. I think it was the game where he was just sitting on the field with his head down, like the classic Tom Brady posture, whenever he's losing. And it was very similar. Now, that was the wake-up call for the Bucs last year, right? I think all of the Bucs would say the Saints did them a favor. And I'm not just talking about Drew Brees on forced errors in the playoffs and Jared Cook's fumble. I'm talking about showing them that if you come into the ring with your gloves down, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get pummeled against a team like the Saints. So, yeah, it was a total loss. I mean, I don't care who you played on this Packers side, you were disappointed. The good news is, again, they get Detroit next week on a Monday night even. So, Valdez-Scantling, by the way, he did get, again, Eric Stoner. I should just have Eric Stoner in here, like with a little moving mouth like they did on South Park, the MVS Air Yards King of the Week. And
I'm not your buddy, guy.
Yeah, I'm not your guy, buddy. So it was just a miserable game, which then in turn, makes you wonder how much can we really take away from what the Saints did in this one. I know that at the very least, Jameis Winston's their quarterback. I can take that away.
How is New Orleans feeling, Bloom? You're in New Orleans. You're back in New Orleans. I mean, was that energy from the team there? Narrative does belong, but this was in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
The team clearly and so close to that community. It's such a great community down there where you're at. We love New Orleans. You love New Orleans so much you moved there. But like the Saints, and we'll go through it, right? Jameis in the 5 touchdown passes. Okay, only 148 passing. Juwan Johnson is going to propel more people to take big wide receivers and turn them into tight ends. Couple of touchdowns for him. Deontay Harris, 2 for 72 and a touch. Chris Hogan got a touch. Alvin Kamara got a receiving touch and also 20 for 83 on the ground. Tony Jones with 11 for 50 in this one and then a catch for 3 yards. Marquez Callaway, the disappointment, 1 for 14. I don't think you should have been starting Adam Troutman, but 3 for 18 there if you did. So, they got it. They got the big win, putting it on for the city. But what do we take away from this very odd performance?
Well, you take away that the defense is ready to do the heavy lifting. They got Bradley Roby for a 3rd-round pick, basically. And they were able to hang. They weren't feeling intimidated at all by Aaron Rodgers. You also have Jameis Winston looking accurate, under control, disciplined, even without Michael Thomas. How would he throw the ball 20 times in this game, I think? Isn't that crazy? That's a quarter for Jameis Winston. Yeah. But they were able to control this game. Tony Jones looked good, by the way. I mean, let's just put this aside. Alvin Kamara, much like Christian McCaffrey, just yoke the offense to him, and he'll pull it. He'll pull it up a hill. He'll pull it through the snow. He'll pull it through a ditch. He'll pull it, and then Jameis Winston will make the throws. He'll make the throws mainly to Juwan Johnson. And one of the throws Johnson went up and climbed the ladder for, where Winston, again, challenged him to make the play. And Johnson, again, folks, if you haven't heard us go through this spiel on the Audible before, at one time at Penn State was considered a potential first-round pick, ended up undrafted. Saints have a knack with undrafted players, especially undrafted skill players. They just have a knack. Tony Jones, once again. But otherwise, you're not going to get much from Marquez Callaway. The bomb to Deontay Harris, you're not really going to play him. We'll see how the Saints measure up against Carolina, a divisional game. Teams are familiar with each other, but you have to feel good if you're the Saints. See, you have to feel like, for Saints fans, and you ask me how the city's doing. I don't know, man. It's kind of like, how do you feel the day you get back home from the hospital? You're out of the hospital.
Lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
Fortunate, blessed.
Yeah, but still not ready to do everything that you normally do.
Right.
Of course, but at the same time, the Saints and the team is used to this, makes the people of the city forget what they're going through for a little bit, right? Isn't that why we play fantasy football? Isn't that why we love football in some ways? Because it's the only thing happening in the universe when it's happening, right? That's what we love about football Sundays. Like, nothing else is happening. You could be ready to walk to the electric chair, and instead of a last meal, you got to have a last football game. And during that last football game, you might get caught up in it if it was a good game and forget you were going to the electric chair at the end of the game. So the Saints, what you can entertain, Cease, is the idea that maybe Drew Brees was holding this offense back. Maybe even though Drew Brees could execute, maybe even though Drew Brees could be the guy in the building everybody emulates, still there's throws that Jameis Winston can make that Drew Brees couldn't make at the end of his career. So what happens when Michael Thomas gets back? What happens when Traquan Smith gets back? What happens when this team gets everyone on board? Because it's NFC, baby. It's wide open. The NFC, I know Tampa, that's fine. Remember, New Orleans thumped Tampa last year. In the playoffs, if they didn't have some turnovers go against them, they could have beaten Tampa in the playoffs. This team knows Tampa. This team is not going to back off from Tampa. We're not going to get to see them play Tampa next week against Carolina. But it couldn't have done, this was your dominant team of the day, Cease. This was your team that said, yeah, we're ready for business. We're ready to show up and work.
Ready to rock and roll. And Sig, I apologize because I put the Broncos and Giants as the final game.
Yeah.
Actually, I just followed the ESPN scores
on
the schedule page. And the last game was Broncos and Giants. I won't be too chatty with this, but we got to talk about it. Broncos 27, Giants 13. It was a late Daniel Jones rushing touchdown. This game was out of hand almost the entire time. But Teddy Bridgewater, very efficient, 28 of 36, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Went for it on 4th down 3 times, got every 4th down. Like, they did that in the preseason, and I said on the air, like, they won't do that in the regular season.
Oh.
Totally wrong. They did it in the regular season. Jerry Jeudy 6 for 72 before he goes out with a horrific leg injury that may just be a high ankle. I don't know. I'm not on Twitter right now, Bloom, because I'm hosting a show. So I've got some texts in. We'll figure it out with Jerry Jeudy, but he's hurt. But they have Tim Patrick, who caught the touchdown on an option play with, of course, Teddy Bridgewater doing his thing. Albert Okwuegbunam on one of those 4th downs caught the touchdown. It was 4th and 1 at the goal. Melvin Gordon gets 101 yards. Most of it was on 1 carry, 70 yards late. But here's what they did, and this is the Broncos' way. He used 9 receivers. Teddy's favorite guy is the open guy. Now, it was Jeudy. Noah Fant also could have done more. There was a pass from Teddy, his worst pass of the day, down the sidelines. Fant breaks open. If Teddy leads him, that's a touchdown. But he put it behind him, and I think it hit the defender in the back or something like that, or Fant couldn't catch it. So just know this with Noah Fant. He had the lower leg thing that was weird or whatever. He looked fine enough. And he worked really hard, and he was a big part of what they wanted to do through the air. But now, without Jeudy, you're going to look at more Tim Patrick, more KJ Hamler, who comes through, in fact, on one of those big 3rd downs or 4th down plays. So here we go. And Javonte Williams leads the team in carries, 14 for 45, the closer, late specifically. And he could have easily had that big run that Gordon had. Like, he had a couple runs, and then Gordon comes in, and then it was Gordon's big run. So, like, this is probably going to frustrate you and, split headache. Between these two, it was Gordon's day today, even though Javonte out-touched him.
See, we haven't talked extensively yet on how it is covering Teddy team. That's a player that we certainly have a lot of affection for. But I think that he's an endearing individual.
Yes.
And
everybody loves him.
It becomes his team. And we'll see what happens, but aside from fantasy football analysis and things like that, I'm just happy that, again, Teddy has a team, and this game wasn't nearly as close as the score makes it look, and that's weird when I say it's 27-13, it was a garbage time touchdown. It wasn't even that close. Logan Ryan had one of the best individual plays you'll ever see a defender make, stripping the ball from Albert O and recovering it,
Right. Hamler dropped the TD bomb.
Hamler dropped an easy touchdown. Hamler dropped the kind of touchdown that is like the symbol of whenever you blow it. You could put it in like a Southwest commercial or something, right? Where it's like, you got to get away, because it was just the ball's hanging in the air and all the Broncos fans are standing up. All the Broncos fans at home are standing up, and he drops it. But that doesn't matter. That's how decisive this win was for the Broncos. Teddy, good quarterback 2, steady Teddy, quarterback 2, super flex, maybe not a quarterback 1. Even without Jeudy, well, that means that Fant is going to be an easy guy to play every week. Hamler is going to have some ups and downs. Patrick, we already know that he can play. Sutton, he doesn't look as rusty as maybe your worst fears were. You have the split backfield. Gordon showing the speed. The speed did not fade down the stretch.
His mama told him that. Mama Gordon said, "Where's your speed at?"
Yeah.
And with the Chargers ruined him, and maybe he rebounces this year and goes somewhere and gets another big contract that somebody overpays for him. But like, his mom said, like, dude, you used to be fast.
Yeah.
What happened? And he slimmed down and he got fast again.
Yeah, Giants know that. And Denver's going to Jacksonville. So see Jacksonville Jets 3-0 start. Wake me up when you face the Chargers. Wake me up when you face the Chiefs. At the same time,
Ravens week 4.
Right. We'll learn, but this is especially for Teddy, man, because I don't think any of us understand what it would be like to build your whole life towards a football career and then one day have your knee just explode and really have a life-threatening injury. That was a life-threatening season. It ain't often that we talk about life-threatening injuries on the football field, especially on a practice, especially just dropping back to pass. Mm-hmm. So the Teddy is all the way back. He has a team. as a team that you cover. And I remember Cecil, I just got as an aside, I know I've mentioned this on the show, he would ride his bike to the Superdome on game days. You might see Teddy Bridgewater riding his bike to the Superdome on game days when he was with the Saints. So I know Saints fans are happy with Jameis Winston. I think they would have been happy if they would have kept Teddy. I think it's good for Denver that they got Teddy, even if maybe he's only keeping the seat warm for a year for, who knows?
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers come look like garbage, and you pay 3 first-rounders for him. Anyway, well, he'll bounce back, right? We hope. Hey, when it goes, dude.
Yeah.
Right? It'll except for Tom Brady because he's a vampire. But like when it goes, it goes. When Drew Brees was done, he was done. When Peyton was done, he's done. Like he's done. And I'm not saying Rodgers is done, but like Rodgers this year was exciting for Denver. Rodgers next year for Denver is like, okay, obviously it's great, but
yeah. Are you getting the Minnesota Brett Favre or the Jets Brett Favre?
Right, exactly. Hopefully no pictures from Brett Favre. Anyway, Giants. We'll wrap it up. I love when I make you laugh. Your laughter is so good. Sterling Shepard is covered by Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson, so he goes off 7 for 113 and a touch. Darius Slayton had 3 for 65. Kenny Golladay with some tough grabs, 4 for 64. Daniel Jones with the rushing touchdown late. It was like, what are you doing? Saquon Barkley barely played because they don't want to use it. Don't they play Thursday? Right,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Barkley 10 for 26, whatever. Daniel Jones 267, 1 touchdown, no INTs. It won't be much longer. We'll be talking about Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
That's the thing, Cease. We could talk about quarterbacks going into make or break years. Tua, maybe it's a little unfair. Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones. Ooh, Daniel Jones. So they got completely outclassed in their own building by a Teddy Bridgewater Broncos team, which is, without Bradley Chubb, etc. But still, it's not good. And they're going to face Washington. Barkley, I guess you got to play him. If you heeded he'll be used sparingly, it was right, and Denver didn't make it easy when he was out there. Sterling Shepard looked good. Sterling Shepard is a good player, and Daniel Jones knows that. It's going to count on him. Kenny Golladay is a boom-bust wide receiver 3 flex type, along with Darius Slayton. And without Evan Ingram out there, when Ingram comes back, it's not going to make it easier for someone other than Shepard. So it's the Giants. It's going to be one of the tougher teams to watch unless you're watching it as a comedy. And we'll get to watch them Thursday night. I don't think it'll be a comedy if you are a Giants fan.
Bloom, we did it.
I love the smell of football in the evening.
It is done. It is the Audible, the Footballguys.com podcast. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Make sure to do all those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thank you. Everyone go watch Sasha in Casually Comics. That's where I get that line from. Anyway, he's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter. It's the most important thing ever, at Sigmund Bloom. And I'm cranky. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. I was going to say something else. Anyway, it's fine. You'll be all right. And hey, everyone, thanks for checking out footballguys.com. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for telling a friend. Thanks for spreading the love. That's how we grow this channel. That's how we grow this show. And we thank you for the millions upon millions of downloads and likes and all those sorts of good things. It's just fun talking football with you. It's fun talking football with Sig, hanging out with y'all, whether it's live and in person here on YouTube or whether it's in your AirPods when you're getting on a plane or working out at the health club or whatever. We thank you guys for listening to the Audible. We thank you guys for watching Football Guys TV, youtube.com/FootballGuysTV. And of course, we have Dynasty newsletter show, Dynasty show, IDP Roundtable? Question mark?
Yeah, I got to get that together. I got to round up the roundtable.
Round up the roundtable. Yes, the live show, the preview shows. We have the mailbag show, very popular. We have our DFS show, the Power Grid, very popular as well. We certainly appreciate you guys for jumping on board with us here at footballguys.com. He's Sig. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.